Welcome to Red Review's Ghost in the Shell. That was the adventure we got to go on today, or as you could also call it, is RoboCop. It seems like this movie it was influenced by RoboCop somewhat because Ghost in the Shell is referring to Scarlett Johansson's character Major, who is sort of the first of her kind, a cybernetic type of unit, which just has a brain, but the brain itself is living inside of this cyborg, this robot, in that it felt like RoboCop. Now, I know this is based on a Japanese manga. I've never seen it. I don't do much with anime and Japanese manga and stuff like that. So if I get my terms all mixed up, I know people who watch that really take it seriously. So if I get my terms mixed up or if I say something that's completely against the Japanese manga or the original Ghost in the Shell story, I do apologize, but I am critiquing this one based off of how it presents itself as a live-action movie. Now, I wasn't going to address the whitewashing I know that was caused a bit of a stir when this movie was getting made because, like I said, Japanese manga, so the character is Japanese, but they did cast Scarlett Johansson. And normally, like I said, as long as she is functional in the movie, it should be all right. But when the entire movie seems to still take place inside that world, as much as I can gather, when everything, such as the settings and the characters and the languages, is just Japanese all over. It's just so enriched in Japanese culture that when you have Scarlett Johansson as the main character, she sticks out like a sore thumb. So in that, I wasn't going to address it, but it is noticeable that it should have been sort of taken into the Japanese route. If you're going to take everything else, down to like the drinks people are drinking is written with Japanese language on the side, if you're going to go that far as to everything be in that culture or that style, then maybe you should think about the main character. I know you need a recognizable face, but that's just my opinion. Anyway, in this story, The Ghost in the Shell, being that the ghost being the soul is what the Ghost in the Shell is, and the shell being her robotic cyber form. But Major works for this organization, and they kind of go out and they stop sort of these techno-ish terrorists. And there's a techno-terrorist out there hacking into people because everybody has mods done to their bodies. And so they start investigating and unraveling who this guy is and what he's all about. It's sort of a story in that you've seen over and over again where somebody works for an organization and all of a sudden the organization double-crossed them, or it's not what they thought they were working for. Then they got to end up fighting against that same organization because either they stole something from them, they stole their previous life, they took something they loved from them. In that, I thought this movie would be kind of like Aeon Flux going in, and it sort of is like that, where she's fighting for something, but what she's fighting for, ultimately, it's not what she should be fighting for, so she has to reprioritize who the villain is, what she believes in, what's real to her. So, like, you've seen that story a billion times, and this one doesn't add anything new to that story. And what I really would praise this movie for more than anything else is the visuals. It's visually stunning. You can see the first 5 minutes online, and that almost could be, I don't want to say that's the highlight of the movie. There's a fair amount of action in those 5 minutes, and the trailer is making you believe this is a straightforward action movie. However, this movie never quite pushes it as far as I would call it an action movie. There are certain action beats, a lot like Lucy with Scarlett Johansson, where there are action beats, but I wouldn't say that that's an action movie. It doesn't like break out into full fight sequences. There's some gunfire here and there, but never like a grand shootout, never like a fight sequence that goes on prolonged. So it's never like an action movie. It's more of just a mystery thriller uncovering these secrets. It just so happens it takes place in this fantastical world. But the visuals are stunning. Early on in the movie, it was catching me off guard because the city that this movie occupies, it's full of just ads out the ass, like 3D ads covering all the way to the skyscrapes and just everything you can imagine. Like if there's an open space, then it has to have an ad there. And I was like, well, that's a little excessive. But human beings being as over the top as we can be, in that world, if that actually existed now, you bet your ass that we'd cover every piece of possible real estate we could with an ad. That's what we do. We do it before you watch this video on YouTube, you probably saw an ad. And so, in that, I sunk into this world. I liked the world. It was very eye-pleasing. There's a lot to look at. It's very visually stunning. But the story itself, I don't know, it didn't quite live up to the visuals, where at points in this movie I had to remind myself why we were where we were, how did we get here. So it doesn't add anything new. It's a little sluggish at times, I feel, because like I said, it never goes into full action mode. So like you have these beats, like these real fast beats where we rev up into action, but then it's over real fast, and then we're back to sort of the discovering and the mystery. So movie is ill-paced in that it doesn't really know what it wants to be. So in that, I was going to mention something else besides the visuals, and now I can't. Oh, the cybernetic enhancements, which I thought were cool. Another thing that I thought may have been over the top, but then I was also reminded myself that that's how human beings were. If we could cybernetically enhance ourselves, say, take my arm, give me super strength, or, my eyes, give me x-ray vision, people would do that. And like human beings indulge in something, and then we indulge in it, and we indulge in it, and it becomes like a drug, we would do the same thing with these cyber enhancements. Same we do with regular drugs. Same people do things with, tattoos. They love that. Same I do with movies. Sometimes we just overindulge a little bit. So I can see once I started to get into the mindset of the world we were in and the abilities these people had, and of course I could see that, yes, these people, human nature, they want more, more, and more. So, like I said, the settings and the characters outside of the main characters, I like the world that everyone occupies. Other than that, I wasn't too much of a fan of the story. I was almost going to do a rant on Scarlett Johansson's acting in this one, but because it's so just wooden and robotic. But then I realized that, of course, she's supposed to be a robot, so maybe it's actually the best performance she's ever given. But I was somewhere between bored and it never got to the point where I was really enthralled. So it was like right there in the middle. It's probably like a 5 out of 10, right there in the middle, where I was like, it's got a lot to look at. It's got some fun parts. If I glanced away or did something else, go do the dishes or whatnot when it was on TV, I wouldn't miss too much, I feel. I'd come back and I'd still just be wanting to see all the pretty visuals. So Ghost in the Shell, I'd rate it as pretty much just that, just kind of the shell. It's got I would rate it like Scarlett Johansson's acting in this one, which is very pretty to look at. This movie is very pretty to look at, but her acting, like the movie, is just kind of robotic. It's going through these motions, but there's nothing too exciting about it. So Ghost in the Shell, I just rated it as just the shell. So I'll catch you guys next time. That's my review. Like and subscribe right here on Red Reviews.